Today we're looking at a couple of different alternatives that you may wish to vote for at the federal election. Today it's One Nation and the People First Party. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate.
Yep. Easter done?
Yes.
Yep. Peoples will start coming out in the next...
I'll try and stay off the chocolate.
Oh, no, yeah, you might be. I'm not. I'm smashed at stupid, mate. Thought we'd look at One Nation today.
Yep.
And People First.
Yep.
Thanks to one of our watchers who suggested we had a look at Jared Rennick's party and what he stood for. Not huge down here in Victoria.
Yep. I've watched Gerard on YouTube and Facebook for a couple of years now. I like what he's had to say. I like that he pushes them.
Yeah. He makes sense.
He tries to make them justify their actions pretty much. He's very, very, very competent, very good talker. I like everything about him. Yeah. He's very, very good.
Straight up, man.
Yeah.
So we'll kick off with One Nation, our very own Pauline Hanson. Yeah, both quite a Queensland flavour today.
Yeah.
So we'll just run through what they're offering. Both parties actually got a huge amount on offer.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's a pity that we get so railroaded into Liberal and Labor because these parties actually offer an alternative.
Yes.
A true
and
change.
a much better, well, on paper, a much better, everything's on paper, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they give us these ideas and these things they're going to do.
Yeah.
But certainly on paper, it's hands down, if either one of those Labour or Liberal parties said what these guys were saying, I'd be voting for them.
You'd be voting for them, exactly right. Might pop the goggles on, mate, because the eyes are not so great today. Okay, so One Nation, family tax policy. So take the husband and wife or the two incomes, add them together, draw them down the middle, and tax according to that. So that would help lower the higher income rate.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So if someone's working full-time, someone's working part-time, that's going to help.
Yep.
Put a little bit of money back into the pocket. I don't mind that idea.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with it. I think it's quite a good idea.
Both of these parties, One Nation are suggesting a reduction of cost in childcare and to encourage homeschooling. I'm not a homeschooling fan, but...
I understand why they're doing it.
Yeah.
Because...
it's a rot.
Well, I don't know about schooling. Certainly a friend of my son's went to America and went into class there, and he said they're so far behind the Australian schools. He said he's bored. The whole time he's already done the stuff. He hasn't gone down a year. He's in the same equivalent year.
Yeah.
And he said it's just so easy.
It's funny, I got a mate who went off to Austin in school and then did uni there, and he said the same thing.
Yeah.
Way behind.
So even though obviously Pauline and her party maybe think lesser of the schools here, but according to people that, well, you obviously as well, knowing somebody that went to America, their schooling seems far less superior than our own, which is, I suppose, good for us.
Well, now they got Linda McMahon fixing it, haven't they?
Yeah.
She'll wrestle them. Vince's daughter. It's going to cut government spending, so climate change administration abolished. That'll save $30 billion a year. And the National Indigenous Australian Agency abolished, which will save $125 billion a year, which is a lot of money. And then she wants to redirect that aid directly to the community, because you'd reckon a certain percentage of it is going in the sky.
A lot of it would definitely go missing somehow.
Yep. Reform the NDIS, which I think is a great thing. The NDIS is rot. A lot of people are getting way overcharged and a lot of money's going into the wrong pockets. And she wants to pay down Australia's debt. So there's two or three parties are talking now about paying the debt down, so that's a good thing.
Are Labour one of them?
No. And Liberal are talking about it, but not in any serious or meaningful way. She wants to up gas production and create a royalty levy. So
yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
We need to up our gas production. She wants a free speech referendum, and she wants it enshrined into the Constitution.
That's a great idea.
It is a good idea.
Especially the way everything seems to go, and it seems to have everything all around the world seems to be getting a bit more authoritarian. They're a bit closer to 1984 than I'd like, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I agree. Water Infrastructure Initiative, Murray-Darling Basin is probably the one that affects you and I the most. But we waste a lot of water in this nation, and we sell it. We don't send the water to the right places, especially farming. So another interesting one she had was to have the government subsidise apprenticeships for the first all of the 5 years to 75%.
Well, considering our apprenticeship rate is severely lacking, I think that's a great idea.
Can't get trades.
No, you cannot. No. And if you do have a trade, they're all jumping on the bandwagon with unions because they get paid crap loads of money with them.
Once these road projects in Victoria run out, like the tunnel and these
there's going to be
trades.
So many of them going, oh, got a job.
Yeah. And you have to pay me $250,000 because that's what I get paid to hold my lollipop in the tunnel. I'm sure they're not really earning that sort of money, but it seems extreme. No GST on building materials to help with reducing the cost of building.
Yeah.
Aim to reduce electricity by 20%. That there's no real policy behind it. She just wants to do it. Labor promised the same thing. Haven't been able to do it. The 26 cents excise on fuel she wants to bring it for 3 years, not one. That the Liberals have promised. No excise on beer and spirits in venues. So if you go to a pub or a restaurant, club, then you're not paying that excise on those to try and help some. Some of those restaurants get people back in them.
That's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea. No one goes to restaurants anymore. Raise the tax-free threshold to 35 grand for self-funded retirees. 35 grand for self-funded retirees. That way they're not paying tax from the get-go. A lot of retirees do want to still work, and as our population ages,
we're going to be looking to have more retirees back in the workforce.
Back in the workforce, exactly right. So I think that's a good idea. Citizen-chosen referendums, I don't mind that either. So a citizen can put forward an idea and ask for a referendum, and then we can go from there rather than the government or other bodies choosing what we have referendums on.
Oh, that's a good idea as well.
Yeah. Withdraw from the Paris Agreement.
Yes.
We have the largest... We have to cut the most per capita of any country in the world to hit our net zero.
It is ridiculous.
We'll do one on climate change. That's coming. Yeah. No one will like us after that one. No sale of farming land to foreign interests while she's in power. So at the moment, 53 million hectares or 14% of our farmland is owned by overseas companies, which is a lot.
Well, that's actually an interesting one because before I came into the Bothy, I was looking at America and they were talking about a lot of land being bought up by foreign investors, predominantly China. And in the areas they were buying this land, they were surrounding certain military bases all over America. It was like, there's a base, there's the farmland owned by China. There's a base, there's the farmland owned by China. It's like...
And a lot of that farmland doesn't even have an animal on it.
How could they even let that happen?
Yeah, well, you'd have to ask. Well, I reckon at certain times of his presidential term, I reckon Joe Biden might have been asleep at the wheel.
Do you think?
It's just
an idea. You're just throwing it out there. Jeez.
She wants to advocate for medicinal whole plant marijuana.
Yep, sounds fair enough.
I don't have an opinion on that either way. She wants to deport 75,000 illegal immigrants and cut immigration by 570,000.
Yep.
If we've got 75,000 illegal immigrants in this country, get rid of them. I agree. 8-year wait for citizenship and welfare. I like that. Rather than you coming into Australia and getting welfare quickly. And citizenship's been ramped up by Labor as well before this election. And finally, your bugbear, a royal commission into...
Thank God. We need one.
So we've had a few chats about Pauline in the Bothy. We like her approach.
Yep.
We think that she's honest and straightforward. Without, she's not polished and shiny like some of the politicians. But she says it how it is.
Yep.
And you can tell when she talks, she actually cares about Australia and all Australians. They call her racist. I don't see her as racist. She's just protecting what we have.
I think it was a lot to do. I mean, when you've got the backing of the newspapers and all the publications that go out about these politicians, like Trump, I mean, love him or hate him, he got some really, really bad press, and he does talk a lot of shite sometimes and does say the wrong things, and they jump on it. And I think in the early days with Pauline, they did that a lot. Making her look like a dumbass and really accentuating the fact that she didn't understand certain words. She was a chip shop owner. What do you expect? She's she's improved since then. I mean, back then, everybody thought she was a racist.
Yeah.
Unless you lived in Queensland and were either retired or about to retire. She got a lot of their vote.
Yeah.
But since then, she's refined her way a little bit, and probably the last 2 or 3 years I've just went, you know what?
She makes sense.
She makes sense.
Yeah.
Some of the things she says, well, like all politicians, they can't say everything you can agree with. But for the most part, I think she's all right.
It's funny you mentioned Trump. I've been watching a fair bit of Trump lately, but not the Trump at the press conferences. I've been watching Trump on Puppet Regime. Have you seen Puppet Regime? Check it out.
Puppet Regime.
Yeah, him and Putin, they are at the steering wheel. Puppet Regime. Check out Puppet Regime if you haven't seen it. The true Donald Trump.
All right. Okay.
So yeah, One Nation gives people another alternative.
Yep.
She's got a lot more people running this year than she has, a lot more candidates running this year. So there's even one in...
There's one down here.
In country Victoria. People First Party is not a party I knew too much about. I know a bit about Senator Rennick, but not a lot about his party.
No, well, I mistakenly thought he was part of Hanson's mob.
Yeah,
because basically everything he was saying is kind of what Hanson agrees with. So I just kind of assumed that that's who he was running with.
Yeah,
but wrong.
So one of our watchers made some comments about People First Party and suggested we take a look. And I thought, you know what, let's have a look. I actually went to have a look at the Teals.
Yep.
And then I realised the Teals are just a bunch of independents who don't want to play together. They're not a team.
No.
They're a bunch of individuals backed by a billionaire Australian who was Liberal, had a falling out with the Liberal Party over climate change. He's passionate about climate change because it helps his business. And yeah, he's created the Teals, or helped to create the Teals. And so there really is a policy book there to read.
See, I thought they were an offshoot of the Greens. In some ways,
they're actually an offshoot of Liberal.
Right.
Yeah.
So they've got less Green views, more Liberal views.
No, they've got Green views.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought they were Labor and Green. Looking at some of their people, they're more Liberal and Green, but they'd never go back to Liberal. So anyway, People First Party, Senator Gerard Rennick. So mainly in Queensland, but a few representatives now in New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, and WA. They want to raise the tax-free threshold to $40,000, which puts real money back into people's pockets.
That's a good idea.
This one I really liked. Childcare payments to parents, not to organisations or businesses.
Yep.
I think that's a terrific idea. They want super to become voluntary. Now, and I'll go through some numbers in a minute. I found that really intriguing. You can take it as wages or you can take it as super.
Yeah.
Your choice. In 1992, when super was introduced, 30% of retirees took a pension. They weren't self-funded.
Yeah.
Then we introduced super to allow more Australians to be self-funded. So here we are 32 years later, the percentage hasn't changed. It's still 30%.
Exactly.
The cost of the pension is $53 billion for Australia. The cost of tax benefits for superannuation or tax breaks for those in super is $50 billion.
So not really a huge
There's no
difference.
benefit for the government. In 1992, 10% of retirees retired with a mortgage.
Yep.
In 2024, 40% of retirees retired with a mortgage. So if you allow people to take their super as pay, they won't be able to pay that mortgage off and then save. And as a couple of people have mentioned in our comments, that destroys compound interest. I understand that. But money in the pocket is still money in the pocket.
It's still money.
And at the moment, so many people are retiring with no money in the pocket. In fact, they're in debt. So, an extra 10%, if you could, your choice is whether you go and buy a new car with that or save it and put it on the mortgage. Yeah. Completely your choice. But it gives people an opportunity to pay their debt down and then focus on saving. Yep. So I don't mind his super or their super policies. He wants to streamline bureaucracy, especially around bureaucratic pensions.
Oh, well, that's a rot.
Well, according to their documents, a bureaucratic pension, average pension, is around $2 million. That's a lot of money. Yeah.
That is.
None of us will retire with $2 million here, so
I'll never ever see 2 million in my life.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same. They want to get rid of the climate change department, same as One Nation. They want to get rid of the multicultural department. This one's really interesting too. I think these two are really good. They want to reinstate a public bank like the old CBA, bring a bit of competition back into the market. If they've got a bank that's not focused on shareholder dividends and returns, it can focus on looking after the people, the market becomes more competitive. Interest rates will come down.
And then having that, people will like flock to that. Because they're going to know that the interest is going to drop in there first. And then the other banks it's going to have to follow or lose people.
And what will happen? Branches will reopen. Service will improve. I mean, it's
a no-brainer, really.
He wants to do the same with insurance. All of our insurance are now publicly listed. It's the same deal. Bring back a public insurer. And service will improve.
No, I like that idea.
There's a lot of HEX reforms. There's a 20% discount, which Labor are promising, and there's also no HEX fees for teacher and nurses. I don't mind that. Well, we have a shortage of both of those.
Yeah, that's interesting. That one.
And he also wants to put a bit of the debt back on universities, which is interesting. Universities have also become publicly listed, profit-driven, shareholder dividend driving machines.
Win at all costs.
And that's why we have so many international students coming in, because they pay so much more than ours. He's got some policies around capital markets reform, which really focuses on some bad behaviour at the ASX level. I won't go into that too much here, but that's an interesting one to have a look at. When I did read into that, I thought, wow, there's some rorting going on here for sure. He wants to stop that. He wants to drop net zero, get out of the Paris Agreement.
I don't know why there's so many hangers on saying, "Oh no,
you can't reach net zero.
We can't.
We can't do it."
And if you look at, like you're saying, per capita, per head, like we're already there. We're better than pretty much any other country out there in the Western world. So I don't know what the big. I mean, I suppose if you truly believe we're legitimately responsible for climate change, then I can see that that's why people are so adamant about this. But mate, we've been hot, we've been cold, we've been hot, we've been cold.
Over hundreds of thousands of years.
Mate, they used to grow grapes in bloody England at one point. It was that hot. It was that warm. It was like 5 degrees warmer or something. And we're crying about like what? Going over 1.5 degrees. It's like, it doesn't make sense.
We will do climate change.
And there is enough scientists out there that are against this bloody shit.
We'll dedicate a whole hour.
Good, because I've got a mate that wouldn't talk to me about climate change. He went, "Oh, I disagree with it. I can't talk to you about that." And I was like, "What?" Because he believes it so much that we're the cause of it.
We're not helping it. Oh, we're not the cause of it.
No.
That's my opinion. We will talk about that. They support all types of energy, from nuclear to hydro to everything. And they want gas reserves policies in place in every state, which I think is a good idea. They want to protect farmland from the renewables. A lot of our farms are just having their land bought, wind. And then when the 20 or 30 years, whenever they are no longer are in use, the farmer has to get rid of them at a cost of $500,000 a tower.
It's on the farmer.
It's insane. Freedom of speech is big in their policy. They want to cut and cap immigration. They want to get rid of illegal immigrants, and they want a 10-year wait till you're welfare or a citizen. They want to remove funding. This one was interesting. They want to remove funding from the Therapeutic Goods Administration. So rather than the big pharma in Australia funding the testing of drugs and the testing of side effects.
This is a great one. This is a good one.
So rather than funding that and then doing the testing themselves, they want them to keep funding it, but they want them to do it through fees to Treasury, and then Treasury will employ people to do that testing.
And somebody from the outside that's not getting done in-house, that might make them a bit more honest.
A bit more accountable.
Yeah, exactly.
And they want to cut the beer excise, which has been quite popular. So what these two parties do is give people a genuine alternative. And when we were looking at the numbers during the week, over 30% of Australians are going to vote for someone other than Liberal or Labor. It's going to be the biggest vote ever of the non-major parties. So we believe that Labor probably are going to get back into power
Unfortunately.
by getting around 34% of the vote, and then they'll get the
They'll get
17, 18% of the
Yeah.
Greens, and they'll get a bit from here and a bit from there, and there's independents,
Yeah.
and there's Trumpet of Patriots are giving some there and some there.
Who's Pauline Hanson?
I think she's decided to go with the Liberals.
She has.
It's in most seats.
Is that
I know
right?
she's supporting
Jared
that.
Rennick? Is he going? Is his party going?
I don't know 100%. I think it's Liberals.
Okay.
Yeah. They are libertarians, so I would imagine that it would be, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
So these people give... I mean, if Liberal or Labor came out with a list like that of things they wanted to do,
I'd jump on it.
it'd be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But neither of them...
No.
Yeah, they're so vanilla.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating to watch our major parties
I
do
know.
nothing to help our nation.
I know, especially since we just watched the Trump event, and that was just like, what?
He got voted in on the back of reform.
Yeah.
Yep. We're not offering any reform to
No.
our people.
There's nothing.
Here's 3 more years of the same. Which do you want, vanilla or beige? It's like Richie's jackets, mate. It's ridiculous.
Just boring. Man.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Give us something to vote for. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Give us something interesting.
Yeah.
Something that we can get our teeth in instead of the same old bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I reckon.
Yeah, I agree. So there's a couple of alternatives for you people. What I haven't done today is bag the Greens. They're shit. In my opinion. Hey, free speech. You say whatever you like, Michael. There.
The haters are going to be out on you.
Well, you know what? If they ever get in, they won't get in.
God,
Yeah. I just don't want them to get the balance of power because they will twist Labor into making decisions that will hurt everybody, not just older people or retirees or just everybody.
I mean, look, the Greens do sound like on the surface, without delving in, the Greens sound like a good idea. Don't you think?
Nah.
I do. See,
Yeah.
I was a Green at one
Yeah,
point.
right.
But then
You should get out of your own Bothy.
the more I looked into it, and the more I went, what? I remember we went to vote about 10 years ago or something, and we got handed a brochure before we went in. Now we were voting possibly Green this day, and we walked in, and my wife's opened it. She went, "They want to give minimum wage to people working in a jail." What? And that was it. Never again. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
They're in there because they're getting punished for doing something possibly pretty bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't be giving them a minimum wage. They'd be coming out after 10 years, like we're $500,000.
Nothing to spend it on.
No.
No. One of our followers put a really good comment about the Greens on one of our videos.
Oh, did they?
Absolutely summed the party up, in my opinion. Well, there's been a number of really good comments about the Greens, actually. He said he doesn't call them the Green Party, he calls them the Watermelon Party.
How'd you get that?
Green on the outside and red on the inside. In other words, they're a bunch of communists. And I couldn't agree more. Great comment. Thank you very much. We're loving the comments. It does incite some really good conversation.
Yep.
There's been some great comments and some horrible ones. Believe it or not, Al and I aren't trying to destroy Australia,
No.
but we do enjoy all of the comments, and free speech is everything. So there's a couple of alternatives, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Next week we'll do an episode on what happens if you vote for one of these parties. What actually happens
Yes.
to that vote?
Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting one, and that'll be it. We're pretty much there. 2 May we vote.
Yes.
In fact, my mum voted today. She put she mailed her vote in today. So, all right. Thanks for watching us.
Thanks, guys.
See you later.
So, yeah.